You've seen the work we've put in, day out, challenging myths, debunking old wives' tales, and rejecting poor breeding practices. We've dedicated years of research, study, and real-world experiences to perfect the art and science of breeding. And we do it for one reason: to bring you the best, most accurate information possible. Because you know what? You deserve nothing less. But to keep this mission growing week after week, we need you. If you found value in the Bred to Perfection podcast, please take a moment to rate and review us. A 5-star rating and a quick comment might seem small, but every review helps us reach more breeders who need to hear the truth, who want to learn what it really takes to create, improve, and maintain top quality strains. This isn't just a podcast, it's a movement, and you are a vital part of it. If you believe in what we're doing, if you want to help others wake up and become better breeders, push this podcast to the top. Rate, review, and share. Together, we make a difference. Thank you for standing with us. Now, let's get to work. Entertaining, informative, and educational. Inspiring content that makes a difference.
This is the Maximus Troy Publications Broadcasting Network.
Join the Academy. The Breeders Academy proudly presents Bred to Perfection with Kenny Troiano, a show for serious breeders.
Whether you are looking to create a new strain or simply improve an old one, you have come to the right place.
Daddy, I want more chickens.
Oh, boy.
Now, here's your host, Kenny Troiano.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Bred to Perfection. My name is Kenny Troiano, and this, my friends, is the podcast devoted to helping you become a better breeder and taking your strain to the next level. That's right, my friends. It doesn't matter if you are brand new to breeding or you've been breeding for many years. There is something all of us can do to improve our fowl for future generations.
This is my couch, and right now you are my doctor. So shut up, take notes, and just listen.
Okay, welcome to another episode of Bred to Perfection. I'm Kenny Troiano, founder of the Breeders Academy, and I'm here with my wife Nancy and co-host Frank Bradley, and I think somebody just fell over their chair. What happened?
Wasn't me.
I had my pet pen fall off the table.
Oh, is that what it is?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, now we got bad luck.
Auburn, he just busted his head.
Oh, shit.
Oh, now we got to burn it.
Is that bad luck?
He'll be okay.
Okay.
He needed to break.
Wait, you got to show everybody what you're talking about.
Hold up.
Did he break?
Nope, he's good to go.
Okay.
He's took better falls than that. I've actually been on a computer doing classes, and he's been thrown way harder than that, I can promise you. And he's living to tell about it, so.
Nancy missed our green room conversation, Frank and I, right?
I did.
We're talking about washing the car, whether we should hand wash it, whether we should car wash it. And Frank's saying, don't car wash it because it could scratch it. And we got a nice car and we just painted my truck. And I'm like, okay, maybe we're going to hand wash. And I guess I'm going to have to take Nancy to the car wash so I can watch her wash the car. You should have seen the look she gave me. It was dirty, man. I'm telling you. So
That's just another thing Nancy put on her to-do list.
I said, I don't care, but you got to pay me.
Really? I just bring my chair, huh? Hey, you missed a spot.
Amanda, she loves doing that. She loves washing the vehicle, which I told Kenny, I said, I thank God she likes doing it because I hate doing it. Now, I do the wax, and I was telling Kenny, I give it one good waxing a year. But sometimes I might go over a little bit. But it's the life of your vehicle. I mean, you take care of that paint, especially if you're garage keeping them, and they'll last a lifetime. But the sun here in Kentucky, paint doesn't do too good in that hot sunlight, especially today, hit over 100 degrees. That's pretty harsh on them.
Well, like I told you, I would say 99% of the damage on my truck was from it sitting in the driveway, getting hit by the sun and the weather And then I had somebody detail it, and they buffed the clear coat off of it, and then it just went to crap after that. Otherwise, for a 21-year-old, actually it's a 22-year-old truck. It's a nice truck, and it's in great shape. I just had it painted, all new lights on it. It looks brand new. Wait till you see. Oh, man, I was going to send you pictures. I need to still do that.
Yeah, I'd like to get to see it.
I told Nancy, I don't know when Frank comes here, are we going to drive the truck or the car when we go up to L.A.? Because I like them both. I like my truck. We have a nice car, but I like my truck.
Once you get used to a truck, it's hard to go down to a car. Regardless of how nice it is, how good it drives, it's just something about being up off the road. I don't like being down low on the ground in a car. The truck that we've got, the Amanda drives, it's really not that tall. It's taller than a car, but not really like my 30-year-old truck. It's sort of like a truck, but it drives like a car, I guess you could say.
I have a Tundra. It's a 2004 Tundra, the 4-door with the 4.7 liter. And it is a little higher than most Tundras because I put a lift kit on it for pulling trailers. So it is a little bit higher. It's kind of nice. But I'm just one with that car. It's like now Tani's driving it. We're teaching her how to drive it. So she's starting to watch more. And she's like, man, you're like one with this truck. And I go, I know. I've been driving it for 22 years. That's what happens.
You get attached to them.
Yeah.
They're part of the family. They're like the chickens,
Yeah. She calls it Sparky. That's how much it's part of the family. I think she would cry. I think she would never forgive me if we got rid of that truck.
The one I drive is 97.
Oh, wow.
30 plus. So it's very, very old. This coming year, I'm going to either make it a farm truck or do the historical deal. I think it's like $25 is all you pay on it. That's 40 something now to license it.
Okay, so I'm going to share a little secret. You want to know what the name of my car is? This is so embarrassing. It's called Pigpen.
Oh, yeah, that one.
It's because a lot of times I'm carting things off to the Goodwill because I've been totally purging the house. And so it's always full of stuff that I have to get down to the Goodwill to deliver. So yeah, it has now become Pigpen.
We were doing that, taking things to the local Goodwill here. But we walked in and looked at the prices, and the prices, you could go to the actual retail store and buy it for what they're charging. It's crazy.
Well, you're not going to buy it back, right?
No, but I like to, thrift shop every once in a while and look at the stuff. But, I walked in and before it was like 25 cents, 50 cents, $1, $5 max. And you go in there now, it's like 50, 60, 45. I guess they're keeping up with the cost of living, I guess.
Well, I'll tell you, every now and then you'll find a treasure that they haven't discovered that was a good deal, that was something that was pretty valuable. And so I'll go in and I'll snatch those up. Those are really fun. That's fun for me to go find little treasures like that. I do the same thing at the swap meet. I'll find little treasures.
$1 vase just here a while back in a Goodwill.
Yeah.
$2 million, $5 for it, I think. And it was $2 million.
Because they don't know everything there at the Goodwill or the other thrift stores. But I'll tell you what, here's a little treasure for you right here.
Oh, yeah.
These are the coffee cups you can get at Cafe Press. And I will bring up the QR code in a minute.
And you don't have to go to Goodwill and get it either.
They're really nice coffee mugs. And that's not the only thing that you can get at Cafe Press that has our logo on it. But in case you're wondering, well, how in the heck do I do that? Just click that QR code, scan it with your phone, and it'll take you right to Cafe Press and where you can order these lovely mugs that we have. So there you go.
Okay, I want to welcome the new members. Got quite a few members this week. That's awesome. Make sure you check out the Start Here pages. That'll get you started on the right foot. For my members, I just posted the next Masters class video, Mastering Disease Resistance with Brian Reeder. I think you're going to find it really interesting. He has a interesting concept when it comes to disease resistance and improving your fowl. If you want to become a member, all you need to do is go to www.breedersacademy.com. As soon as you join, you'll have instant access to the website, which will include the Founders Program, Masters Class videos, the Members Roundtable, all the programs and courses, the full collection of audios and videos, daily articles, and we have experts like Brian Reeder, Peter Brown, Dr. Gallardo, and we also do coaching calls. So just make sure you start with the Start Here pages. Go to www.breedersacademy.com.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor. This show was brought to you by the Breeders' Academy, where we will help you to increase your knowledge of breeding, advance your skills as a breeder, and help you to improve the quality and performance of your fowl. As a member, we'll provide you with the roadmap that you will need to create a true family or strain. I urge you to check it out. You've got nothing to lose, and you can cancel at any time. You also have a 30-day money-back guarantee. Simply go to www.breedersacademy.com to sign up.
The Breeders' Academy will not only change the way you think about breeding, but improve the way you breed your fowl.
I hope to see you there. So let's get started.
This is an interesting topic. Frank sent me some information on molting, which was really interesting. I was like, let's do this. You know what I mean? Because I haven't covered it like this, and he found out some really cool information. And so I just started putting it together, making a show out of it, and then I added some more to it. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to cover the molting process. Actually, this one's going to be called Managing the Molt, the Costly Mistake of Cutting Protein and Weight, and a whole lot more. So I think you're going to find this real interesting. How'd you find this, Frank?
Doing my daily regimen of reading classes until my eyeballs was falling out of my head, pretty much. You know, I showed you the 10-week one that I've got.
Yeah.
And I was telling Kenny, I said, you know, I can handle a week. I can handle 2 weeks. But 10 weeks, I'm ready to pull my hair out, reading about the same thing over and over again. But I guess that's how to get it through your head.
Repetition. Yeah, I'm a big fan of that, you know. Really appreciate that Frank is doing that. And I don't know if a lot of people know he's going for his PhD, doctorate on animal science, I believe, right? Poultry science or animal science?
Poultry science.
Okay. Which, when I first met him and actually invited him to do the show with me, I didn't know that. I didn't know that till afterward. We just got along, and I liked how he thought. It's been a benefit because everything he's learning, or a lot of what he's learning, he's sending over to me, and we end up talking about it. So, you know, I teach him, but he's teaching me. We're like teaching each other. And this is working out really good. 5 years. And I think I've learned as much from Frank as he's learned from me. This is a really cool relationship. We're having a great time.
It's been a give and take.
Yeah.
Kenny's taught me a lot, and I've grown as far as education just by doing this with Kenny. So it's been investment for me alone just to do this, as far as the knowledge that I picked up over that 5-year period. There's very rarely a day goes by that we're not talking chickens. And to a lot of people, that may sound a little loony, but, you know, when you love doing it, you love doing it.
Yeah. We're always sending messages to each other, sharing things that we see and all that, which is cool. It's something we've been hearing a lot for the last few years, which I never thought of it like this. When I hear it, it just makes my you-know-what pucker, because it's so off the wall, and I don't know how he even comes up with it. And we talk about it all the time. Whenever molting comes up or people ask us about the molt, that's the question they ask is, do I drop the protein down to 13%? And do I allow the chickens to reduce their weight or drop 20% of their weight? Obviously, light breeds, like American Game, Leghorns, those kind of breeds, I can't imagine doing that. Actually, I can't imagine doing that for any type of bird. And so when Frank sent me this information, I was like, this is goldmine. This proves what we've been saying, actually. So I thought we'd share it. I don't want people to make the mistake of doing that. Everybody heard the time I judged the show, I think it was in Reno, and all the birds look like crap. I mean, I was like, what the hell? These birds feel bad, look bad, they act bad. What the heck's going on here? And they're trying to show them in a poultry show. And I was like, what the hell's going on here? Does the same person own all these birds? Because they all had the same kind of condition. No, we're all different breeders, and they got this guy here, whatever. And I go, what are you feeding them? And then they point at a tent of a manufacturer. I don't want to say their name. So I went over after the show to check it out. And they had what, Nancy? Maybe 20 different bottles of different formulas of feed for gamefowl.
Yeah.
And the highest protein I saw was 13%.
Wow.
And a lot of corn, a lot of carbohydrates. very little pellet. I just couldn't believe it. You could feel it. The birds felt like paper thin. One of the things they kept telling me is I've been trying to get their weight up and I can never get up. And Frank knows as well as I do, once they lose that weight, they rarely ever get it back. They're just not the birds they used to be.
It's impossible. It's impossible. I've had many chicken breeds over the years. I've had gamefowl all my life. I've had land chickens along with the game chickens. But every time that I had a bird lose his breast or her breast, they seem to never, ever get back to where they were at, ever.
Mm-mm. Yeah.
I've had gamefowl chickens all my life. And if you're seeing something that prevalent for that many years, just not even reading about it or studying about it, that right there itself is common sense of actually doing it and having the knowledge, that, well, if they lose that weight, especially that muscle, they're never, ever going to be the bird they were before.
A lot of people say, well, yeah, I've seen that happen with the rooster, but what about the hens? Sometimes they sit on the nest so long, they actually lose a lot of weight. Well, you got to look at it this way, too. If we were to feed the same feeds, the high proteins that we feed our hens, like when the chicks are growing, the chick feed that they're eating, the grower feed they tend to eat, the high protein that's in those feeds tends to help the hen out. If we were to feed the roosters the same protein, we would burn them up. They would start to have a lot of urates in the feed. It would start to smell. They would start getting kidney disease from it. All kinds of things would happen by feeding them the same feeds we feed the hens. We just wouldn't be able to do that with the rooster. So it's really hard when the rooster loses his breast to get it back, whereas the hens, we tend to have a little more luck. And I do believe that the hens can handle more protein. Roosters are just high strung, high metabolism, high energy. Once you lose it in the breast on the cock, you just never seem to catch up.
Well, there's been many times getting a rooster ready for a show, and you want to get him down to where he's quirky feeling. You take a fat rooster to the show, and when they walk around to get him out of the dropout pen, you reach him to the judge, and he looks at him, and he just reaches him back to it. Says, okay, thank you. He's disqualified automatically if he's overweight. That's an automatic right there. So, we try to get them in the best flesh as possible, get them that quirky feel. Sometimes we go over that, misjudge it, go over it a little bit. And it just seems like they never, ever get back to the shape that they were in to start with.
What was in the report, which I found really interesting, it was saying that if you reduce the weight more than 5%, just by trimming the fat, you're stripping muscle mass and internal reserves, which is vital for the actual health of the bird and to get through the molt. So when you drop that weight and get them down so low, now their energy has to go back to getting that weight back up. Now they're not putting the energy they need into the molt, which is growing new feathers, new flesh, new muscle, new bone. They're behind the 8-ball. And between what's going on with the molt and trying to get that weight back and then try to replenish their body, they just never catch up. They're always falling behind.
Well, and too, Kenny, if you take these birds, especially you're doing this before the molt, what happens in the molt? Their system's down. They're at their most vulnerable point for diseases, for bacteria. Their immune system is dwindled down because of the molt. So if you're doing that in the process along with the molt, it's not only going to hinder them going into the molt, growing the feathers as they should, it's also going to put them in a longer stage to come down with the illness or sickness because of the immune system and what's going on with their body. So it's adding an extra length of time that their system's down to be able to become sick. You take the healthiest bird out there and you get him down 20% of what his weight is, and he's going into the molt in the process. You've opened him up for everything under the sun. And what happens if they're not in tune, resistant to the disease in their environment? You're going to have a problem. You're going to have more sick birds culling during the molt than you would have if you hadn't done that.
That's one of the biggest things they were talking about was it lowered their disease resistance. It dropped their immune system. And Frank's right. Can you imagine whatever the diseases on your yard, you drop their immunity to the diseases that are there. Now they're in big trouble. So now they're trying to make their way through the molt. The body's trying to do what it needs to do to replenish its bone, its flesh, its muscle, and its feathers. And now, like he said, I hear it all the time. People say, my birds are sick. They're going through the molt and they're sick. Well, that's probably why.
because they had a lousy immune system in the first place. They didn't have a great resistance to disease, and now they're going through the molt. Now they're weaker, and now the chances of them getting sick is higher. It's just a mess. And so the idea of lowering their protein level, which messes things up, and then dropping their weight 20%, I don't know. I just can't wrap my mind around the idea of that, so.
Well, the molt can end in death for them anyway. It's very hard on them. But with the molt, I use that as a selection period for me. Because if my birds is not red-headed, they've got a nice color to their head. If they're all pale-headed, the eyes are sunken in, we've got a problem there. I don't want that bird on my yard. That's a weak bird.
Mm-hmm.
So I could only imagine the people that's not up on their nutrition, that's maybe not the best caregivers, if they actually done that and took it down 20%, I could only imagine what kind of mess that's going to make on their yard as far as the death they're going to have within their birds.
That's a suction point. How they handle the molt is a suction point. If they have a poor immune system, to me, that's a suction point too. So maybe birds that would have been fine otherwise, until you dropped the protein in the feed and tried to lower their weight. Now they're not the bird they once were, and now your suction point changes. And if you're doing the same thing to all your birds, you're probably going to see the effects of that throughout your flock. Man, you're not going to have much to suck from when you get done.
Can I ask you a question? I'm going to play devil's advocate. We've heard this going around social media. What do you think is the reason why you should be bringing your protein levels down during the molt? What is the reason for that?
I have no idea.
I forgot. I know he explained it, but I couldn't remember what it was. It didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do
curious.
bring the protein down on my birds in the off season, because if your birds is caged up and you're not using them for breeding or anything that requires performance, and you're upping these birds a real high feed, they've got all this energy and nothing to do with it. So what do they do instead? They start pecking each other. They start being hostile to each other, especially if you're feeding a really hot feed. So there's a time to go down on your feed a little bit, but not plumb out. The only time I would do that is if I had a bird that was fat and it was in hot weather. He had gut fat on him or she had gut fat on him, and it wasn't the breeding time. I would do that with a feed cup. I wouldn't do it with anything other than the feed cup itself. You need to go around and check your birds, check the weight of them to make sure they're not sick, they're in good flesh, at least once a week or no more than every 2 weeks. Keep a watch on them. You can resolve a lot of that just by knowing how much your bird's going to need. Sometimes strains are different. It's a little bit different feed for different strains. It's depending on what bird you're feeding.
I don't drop my protein down, never have, until after the molt, going into the winter. Like the report said, they recommend keeping the protein high about 18-20%.
In the molt. I'm talking about out of the molt and out of breeding season, in the neutral position.
Yeah, I just don't do that. I keep the same feeding program through the breeding season until I get to the molt. Then I actually up the protein a little bit. What I usually do is I start getting rid of the carbohydrates when they're going through the molt. That's what's worked for me.
Yeah, I just found if I keep the same feed, then I ended up with more aggressive chickens.
I never had that problem.
Well, we feed different feeds over.
Yeah, well, I've been feeding the same feed for 30 years, so yeah.
Has that been out that long, that pellet?
Well, maybe not 30 years. When did it come out? I'm trying to remember when Jack told me about it. It's at least 20. It's got to be at least 20 years. I know it's been since Tawny's born, so she's 22. I was using it before that. What I found interesting, too, that saw a feather quality decline, growing brittle, uneven, incomplete feathers by doing that.
Yeah, you start seeing the sheath that the feather grows in, the collar. You'll see that start drying up on them, and it'll be on the whole feather going up and just the tip of the feather sticking out. You'll see a lot of that. You'll see a lot of broken pins, just bleeding blood run out of them. The skirts is not holding on them. They'll rupture, they'll crack just by everyday activities, so to speak. But what I've seen the worst on that is the feathers come in. If a rooster's properly taken care of and his feathers come in, man, they're just so shiny, they look wet. They almost look like they've got oil, a sheen to them, a finish on them. You can tell it's new feathers. But I have been on farms before that I've seen them and they're coming out and they're just dry, they're dull. They just don't have any sheen to them whatsoever. They're just completely dry. And if you grab them and open them up, they just splinter. They just open up. They just tear so easily.
Yeah.
Kenny, back to my question. Carl has an answer for me. The theory is lower the protein to diminish the heat that is created by the molt, and of setting the lower protein by raising the fiber and fat.
Okay, I don't do that.
Yeah. I do more wheat, less corn in the real hot days.
Yeah, what I do is I use my breeding feed from January all the way right into the molt, and then I start getting rid of the carbohydrates during the molt. And then once they get out of the molt and the weather starts changing, then I start raising the carbohydrates to get them through the winter so they're not burning up energy in the cold. So I don't adjust my feed too much.
The more carbs you got too, the more activity levels going to go up as well, because we know carbs transfers into sugar. Sugar is energy for the muscles. So there again, you've got them bouncing off the walls and nothing to do.
See, that's the thing too, is I don't use a lot of carbohydrates. I would say a quarter of my feed are grains, so I don't use a lot.
That's all you really need when you're feeding the pellets that you're feeding. You've got to have a lot of those pellets in there. Now, see, Kenny feeds a 20% pellet. I feed a 36% pellet. So I can use half the pellets as Kenny uses and get the same results. Kenny has to use double the pellets that I use. Say if I use 15 pound in a 50 pound batch of my pellets, Kenny would have to use double that. So he'd have to use 30 pounds.
I never liked that because I liked my feed to be more of the pellet because I felt more of the nutrition was in the pellet, that I didn't get as much from the grains.
I see where you're going with that, but here's the thing. Why would you want to feed less and end up with the same results than feeding double and getting the same results?
I never wanted to feed less of the pellet because I just felt like the pellet carried more of the nutrition than the grain.
Think about this for a moment. You're feeding 20%, I'm feeding 36%. It's still got the same additives in it. It's still got the same characteristics in it, the lysine, the thorium. It's still got all that in it. The only thing is the protein itself. So it still bases out to be the same thing, regardless if you've got 50 or whatever, it still bases out.
I don't know. I'm not seeing it, Frank.
Protein's protein.
Frank, I'm not even talking about the protein. I'm talking about all the other stuff that's in there too.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not seeing it.
See, what I've got when I put it in there, it's actually got more than the all-flock's got in it. You know what I'm saying? So even though it's less, it's higher protein, but it's got more of the additives in that itself. See, I feed 3 different pellets. I feed the protein pellet, I feed a trace mineral pellet, and then I feed a vitamin pellet. The maintenance one, I have to feed half of what you can and still get the same or better result.
But if you can't create your own feed, what about people that have to buy their feed at the store? What do they do?
They have to double it up like Kenny's doing.
I like the all flock. I think it's one of the best feeds on the shelves today. I've been using it for a long time. I've never had a problem with it. My birds feel good, look good, act good, the whole bit. So,
but you feed that and hit 25 below, I'll show you a different aspect on that.
We get pretty cold here. We're not getting below 0, but I mean, we can get pretty cold if I didn't up the carbohydrates.
It frosted that morning when we was out there. There was a little bit of frost on the hoods.
Oh, we get that every winter.
Yeah.
It looks like snow out here. It's so cold. Yeah. No, we get it. The other thing I noticed too, because I like to select birds that molt between 6 and 8 weeks old into the molt. Nancy was like, what if they molt earlier? Well, I've never really seen that. I don't really care. If they molt earlier and they get through it, I guess that's great. I don't really worry about them getting through it quickly. And I don't usually see that. But the range I look at is 6 to 8 weeks when they finish. Anything more than that, I usually select them out. Nancy pulled something up on the internet when we were talking about, because I was putting together the outline, and she was saying the average is from 6 weeks to 12 weeks. Frank, I don't like going past 8 weeks. 12 weeks sounds like a lot to me.
Yeah, that is a lot. That's super lot. Well, there's an anomaly, but like you said before in the beginning of the show, that is a selectable trait.
Yeah.
And if you're breeding for prolonged molts and not knowing it, and a lot of people does, I've seen people that say, I don't know what it is about these chickens. I've got other strains on the yard, but these always mowed in before the others do. They're completely mowed in when the other ones are just beginning the stage. But a lot of them doesn't realize that it is a selectable trait that you can improve a shorter time with selection.
Yeah. But what it's saying here too is dropping the protein and dropping their weight extends the molting.
Yeah, it does, because it's like starving a car of fuel. If a car's not getting the octane that it needs, it's not going to run properly. And a chicken's the same way. If they're not getting the trace minerals and the necessities in their feed, what they need on a daily diet, then it could be even slower than 12 weeks, a longer period of time. You could be looking up to 15 to 20 weeks if they don't have the proper nutrition or caregiving in the same instant.
This is a question here that is pertaining to exactly what you guys are talking about. How often do chickens molt, and can incorporate lighting cause a premature forced molt? A few of my hens molt in July. Snow falls here in October.
Yeah, mine are molting a little bit earlier than normal too. Sometimes they do. July, I wouldn't say that's super early. I see a lot of birds that start their molt in July. I just wouldn't want them to go more than 8 weeks after that. So I would say you can expect the birds to start to molt anywhere from July and then finish up as late as maybe November. Would you say, Frank? That sounds about right to me.
Yeah. Well, your environment has a lot of key on it. If you don't have a lot of shade on your yard, you can take birds and put them under complete shade. Take 5, put them under shade, and take 5, put them out where they get direct sunlight. The ones in the direct sunlight will molt before the ones in the shade will every time. I've got 2 yards. I've got one that's partial shade in the sun. I've got another one that's on a hillside under the trees. The ones up under the trees, they always molt last, regardless of what they are. You take a bird and you put him out in direct sunlight, even if he's getting shade, you can watch those feathers. They'll start to curl up. They'll just curl to the tips of them. It dries them out, takes all the moisture out of them, pretty much.
So they do recommend some things you can do to help them through the molt. Nancy was asking me too, what would you do? I would just make sure they've got good nutrition, fresh water, leave them the hell alone, and don't pick them up and handle them. But they gave some pretty good advice on some of the things you can do. I just like to leave them alone, let them do their thing, because to me, it's part of the selection. What did I say, Nancy, earlier? I like to see the genetics prove themselves. If I'm giving them the proper nutrition, they're getting fresh water, they're getting proper shade, pretty much giving them what they need to get through the molt properly, then I'm going to let the genetics do the rest. And then from there, I'm going to select the ones I'm going to move on with and cull the ones I'm not. I do cull maybe a few every year because I just didn't think they handled the molt very well. Some did excel, and then I made a mark on that. They do pass that trait to their offspring. So if I have some that are not molting very good, or they're molting really late, they're going to pass that to their offspring. I'm going to see their hens and their stags doing the same thing in the future. So I don't want that.
Yeah, it's like I said in the beginning of it, the molt is the biggest time for me to cull. Because if I see any problems whatsoever, I've had some bad experiences that growing up. I've had birds just more or less than it was probably genetically, because I didn't realize how important. But Kenny, you know how it was back in the older days. You went out and you bought a pellet, some grains thrown in it, throw them a handful and go on about the business, Wasn't in nutrition like we are in today's time. People didn't have the education on nutrition the way we have access to it now. But it can make or break your yard during the molt. You can have a bunch of sick chickens running around that would normally be good, healthy birds. It could be just the nutrition alone. It could be genetics, it could be caregiving, or it could be all of them in together, and then you really got problems.
I do notice we see a different molting process when you're dealing with the young birds versus the mature birds versus the older birds. I usually give some consideration to that. I think once you understand your strain and you see a pattern, then that's going to help you. Because if you get birds at various ages and you don't know what to expect, you could be keeping them or culling them when you should be doing reverse because you don't really understand your birds. So I hate to see people select and cull too early because they didn't understand. So I always say whenever you're getting birds for the first time, sometimes you got to keep birds longer than you normally would to get an idea what they're going to do and what they're not going to do. Then you see a pattern and you can start selecting accordingly. Because I get a lot of people going, well, what do I do about this? My stags are molting this way. My older birds are molting that way. Yeah, I would just get to know your birds.
It's funny you mention that because, you take my free-range birds, just starting to get in their adult feathers. Man, they just go through it just like, boom, and it's over with. They don't have no sickness, no illness or anything. But let them birds get to 2 years old and go through the first molt, about 18 months, and you see a different process on them. It really takes the zip out of them compared to when they wasn't in the molt. They can still be healthy, but you still see a less active bird up on the roost, not being as active as they need to be during that particular time. And I guess that's Mother Nature's way of saying, hey, you need to take it easy for a while and rest up, get ready for the breeding season.
I don't know if it was something I was selecting for early on or if I just kind of didn't realize I was doing it. But I know that in the past, whenever I saw a bird drop a lot of feathers to where they're almost bald, I just never wanted to breed to those. I always just mark them as something I didn't want. I think I've done it so much that I'm to the point now where my birds, except for the way they drop their tails, it's probably the biggest thing I see they drop, especially the roosters. Boom, the tails are gone, and then they start growing them in. But my birds tend to lose feathers and grow feathers gradually, so I don't see a huge difference in the birds. It's almost like they go from a slightly dull look to a nice shiny look, and then all of a sudden the tail comes in. Sometimes if it wasn't for losing the tail and seeing some feathers on the ground, I wouldn't even know they went through the molt. And I like that. I actually do like that.
I do too. Yeah, it's like they drop a few feathers, grow a few feathers, drop a few feathers, grow a few feathers. And then you've got those ones I've seen before is just like, boom, like they were shot out of a cannon at the circus several times. The feathers would just be so bad that I would thought, oh, crap, something got in my lot last night and killed a bunch of my chickens, that it would be so bad.
I noticed it too with my pigeons. It was funny. I think it was this morning, Nancy and I had picked up my truck because they just replaced all the lights. And we were looking in the front yard because Nancy has these feeders. She's the kindest heart I've ever seen, a good soul. And so she feeds all the wild birds in the neighborhood and tracks them all to my yard.
You're not supposed to tell anybody that. You're not supposed to say that.
Okay, well, anyway, she's got all these feeders in the front yard.
Everybody's going to scold me.
Yeah. So we were watching these blue jays, which had disappeared at one time. And I was talking to Dr. Bradley from UC Davis about it because I seen one dead in my backyard and they were just starting to disappear. She thought it was the West Nile virus. But I was looking at the ones we had because now they're coming back in a vengeance, by the way. But ask Nancy, they looked a little rough. Like wild birds, they don't lose all their feathers. They wouldn't survive it. There was no way they could look for food, fly to safety. They would die off if they lost all their feathers or as many feathers as a chicken normally does. They would die. I've seen the same thing with my pigeons where in the molting season kind of just look a little rough. They don't lose all the feathers, but by the time my chickens are done, they're done. They look nice and shiny too. And that's how my chickens are. They remind me of wild birds where they look a little rough maybe a little dull, but they come in nice and shiny and you're like, wow, they just all of a sudden look beautiful. I never even knew they were in the molt really. They just looked a little rough there for a while.
And that's the reason for that. You take the flightless birds, they're getting more accustomed to where, oh, we've got food and water and no predators, regardless. I'm just going to drop all my feathers at once. But you take the birds that fly, the wild birds, they have to lose them one at a time and grow them back in needed. And that's one thing I'll say. I never had birds of mine that lost their wing feathers all at one time, ever. Now, they might have lost the majority of their tail, but never their wings. I've never had them to where they couldn't fly up on a 12-foot roost, even in the moat, and not have a problem with it. Because I would have a problem with that if they were. I would have a big problem with that.
You know, if you look at the old Dead Man books, they have a pattern. They show the pattern of the feathers that they lose in their wings and how they grow them back. And it's pretty accurate, actually. So you can actually open up the wings and be able to tell where in the molt they are and how quickly they're getting through it by just comparing the wings of your birds to the wings in those pictures. Because there's a certain pattern. They lose certain feathers first in the wing and then they grow them back. I don't think I've ever seen that where they've lost all their wing feathers at one time. I'm not saying it doesn't. I've seen pictures on the internet. For all I know, they plucked them out of it. And by the way, I'd tell people, don't pluck the feathers. Don't pull tail feathers out of the bird. You're going to damage the feather follicles, and a lot of times they're going to grow in crooked. They're not going to be the same as they were. You can damage them. So don't pull feathers out. Let them come out naturally.
I had a guy do that, and every bird that he had, the feathers grew in pretty much. But you know how they'll spiral? They'll twist?
Yes.
Every one of the tail feathers was twisted. All over his yard, all of his birds had that. Every time they'd mow, the birds that he kept the next following year, they all come back in with that spiral on it where he pulled them out. And he didn't pull them one on one. He grabbed the whole tail and pulled the tail feathers out. That's trauma to that butt of that tail. I mean, it's going to do damage. If it bleeds, it's done severe damage to it. So that's going to have a big influence as far as the way that tail grows in and the way it looks.
I've got experience in this because I did it a long time ago. I was doing that. I was pulling the feathers out and they weren't coming in like they were supposed to.
Shame.
Yeah. I learned it the hard way.
Shame.
I think we all have done that.
Yeah, I'm just saying, a lot of these things I see other people do, a lot of things we criticize, we've done it. I've done it. You know, I wasn't born into chickens and knew exactly what to do all the time. I had to learn the hard way just like everybody else. So,
Hey, Kenny, we are at 9 minutes till the end of the show, and we have 8 starred questions.
okay, one more thing I want to address before we get into that, and then we'll go into the questions. One of the questions I get a lot, and I think Nancy asked it earlier, was force molting. Now, I know the commercial industry does it because it's an economical thing. If they can get all their birds to molt and come back at the same time, hopefully they're not going to be in the molt very long. They're all going to be back in production pretty quickly, and it's going to help them in the long run. I don't suggest that we do that. I don't suggest that we force molt them or get them to molt earlier or find ways to get them to molt prematurely because it's not foolproof. There's a risk and downside to it. They don't always come back like they should.
More risk than reward.
Yeah.
Much more. But a lot of the feeds that you buy, especially if it's a molt feed, they always got extra methionine in it and cysteine. You'll see a lot of the cysteine added to that because feathers is pretty much keratin. And cysteine is a sulfur type of amino acid. I'll get it out here. And they've really got to have that. That was one thing I never added to mine. Once I added that to the molt, not before the molt or after the molt, during the molt, when they need the much. You can go 0.3 to 0.5% on the cysteine and add it with the DL-methionine, which the methionine does make cysteine, but it takes longer for it to build that way. So you want instant results, so you add that to the molt feed. Man, I've seen a world's difference in my bird's feathers just by doing that little amount. But here's the thing. You still got to have the right nutrition for everything else to work. You just can't give them amino acid and say, there you go. It's one and done, as Nancy says. You still got to have the total nutrition in order for it to work, even with the cysteine and the extra DL-methionine. It's got to be right.
One of the ways they force molt is to stress them. I think that's a horrible idea because stress can go badly. I mean, it can cause a lot of other problems, and you can ruin your birds by stressing them that way. And so I just wouldn't suggest you do that. Nancy was asking me something before we came on the air because we were talking a lot about this.
I was picking his brain.
Yeah, she was giving me a headache. It's probably why I'm all flustered now.
Great.
Anyways, she was asking me about, is there any relationship between lice and mites and the molt? And I said, well, not maybe the way she was asking me, but the way I'd look at it is I would make sure the birds are free of lice and mites before they go in the molt. So when you have an idea when they're going to go in the molt, pick them up, check them out, see if you can clean them up, because you don't want them to go in the molt or through the molt with lice and mites. And then there's the other thing too, like mine, I haven't seen lice and mites on mine forever. And we've talked about this before, where if they have lice and mites, especially a lot of them, then I think there's other problems there. There's a weakness. And to me, again, that's a selection point. If I have one bird that has lice and mites, but the rest don't, I just get rid of that bird and be done with it. And I think eventually you won't see lice and mites on your bird. It is a genetic thing too. There's a genetic resistance to lice and mites. So I would check them, clean them up before you go into the molt. If you have a lot of birds, you only have one bird, I would probably cull it. You want to say anything, Frank, about that?
You hit it. I don't think I could add it any more to that one. Yep, that was all.
So, Nancy, you want to go to the question? Oh, let me say one more thing. I'm putting Nancy off.
Crap. We got 5 minutes, guys.
That's the reason I won't go say.
Yeah, no, okay. I know. See, Nancy's doing the editing now. She doesn't want the shows to be too long. Because I just had her edit a 2-hour one, and she was cussing me out the whole time she was doing it.
Oh, by the way, since you brought that up, and I didn't get to say it at the beginning of the show, make sure, guys, that you catch the Monday morning show, Bred to Perfection. That's in the audio version through iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any of the venues that you can get your podcast out of. It's just under a 2-hour show. I know, I just edited it. It's the 10 Commandments of Breeding. That one is a really good one. You all need to catch that. Make sure you do.
Okay, what I want to say is, and I should say this every show, that I have so much information that I collect on each topic. It's not just for us doing the show, it's for the website. So whenever we collect a lot of information, it's like an article here. And then we just kind of take some of the talking points of it and talk about it. But for my members, there's no way, Frank knows, there's no way we can talk about all this in a show. It would take us 3 hours to talk about all this stuff. But my members have the option of actually watching this on the website and checking out the notes, because there's a lot of great information on here. I have a lot of books here. I clicked all the information I can on that topic, the good, bad, the ugly, the pros and cons, everything I can think of, and I put them on here and put it together. So I suggest that after the show, when you go to watch it or rewatch it, watch it on the website and check out the notes, because I think you're going to like what you see there. It's a lot more than what we present on the show itself. Okay, so you want to do the questions?
Yes, let me get back to that.
To see how fast, Nancy, you can go through those.
No kidding. All right. Sean's birds don't molt very much, just in the tail. Is there a reason for that?
He might be going through what we go through, is that they're just dropping the tail, but they're molting so gradually that you're not seeing it. All birds molt. Now, like phoenixes and some of the other ones that have really long tails, they may molt their body, but they don't molt the rest of their tail feathers. So they tend to hold on to them for like a year, like 2, 3, 4 years, I guess it is.
About 3 years.
Yeah, and they just keep growing them. That's different. But like our birds and most domestic birds, no, they're molting every year.
If they didn't, you'd have some of the rattiest looking birds that you've ever seen in your life. So they would look pretty bad. You'd know if they wasn't molting.
Okay, Kenny and Frank, do you prefer domestic breeds of hens that lay eggs faithfully even during the molt, or have short molts?
See, that's a big one for Nancy, too. She's always talking about the short molt. I don't really pay attention to whether they were short molts. I just don't want them to molt forever. I don't know, Frank. What's the shortest you've ever seen a bird molt? I don't even know.
Well, I like about 8 weeks. 8, no more than 10. But I will say this. The Henny strain that I've got, man, them things is like, boom, and they're done. I mean, like 5 weeks and they're done. They're complete. And the rest of them still going around, got a little green in their tail and their hackles. And the Henny birds are already molded in. But I've always noticed that a hen will tend to mold in faster than the cockerels do, because they've got longer, heavier plumages, longer tails, that sort of thing. But man, those hennies, they're just terrific when they molt. I love them as far as that.
Yeah. Now, as far as laying eggs, I don't know if there's anything she can do about it other through selection. I don't know if it's exactly a bad thing, but just know that if they're laying the same time they're molting, that's a lot of energy coming out. I mean, those hens are fighting. Their body's wanting to lay eggs. They're wanting to replenish bone, muscle, and flesh, and then feathers at the same time. That hen's going through hell. I remember Tony, I kept asking him, I've got birds that are going through the molt, and they're sitting on eggs. I go, what do you think of that? A hen sitting on eggs during the molt? I don't have a problem with that. I go, okay, well, that was him, but I usually take the eggs from her. I don't really want her laying eggs during the molt, or actually hatching chicks in the molt. But I don't know what you can do about it. I don't particularly like it.
Now, I've got some right now that's laying, but they're not laying every day. Once they start molting process, it seems like it cancels out their laying. I don't see a lot of eggs right now. I went from 100 eggs a day to down to maybe a dozen a day. So that shows you what a big drop in egg production that I had as far as during the molt.
The hens I see laying during the molt usually are the pullets. That's what I usually see. Not all of them, but some of them.
Yeah, and they molt late anyway the first time, because, they've got to get 16, 18 months old usually before they do their first molt. So a lot of times it's depending on what time of the year they was hatched out.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, I can see that.
Okay, I think you guys answered this when we were talking about our blue jays here. So at the beginning of Sean's question, he was saying that they have what they call mountain chickens here in Hawaii. They're very close to gamefowl. They're about a pound or so less, but they're raised like gamefowl. But like he was saying, they only molt basically in the tail. And I have to wonder if it's just like what you were talking about with the blue jays. They're molting, but you're not seeing it because the molt is so gradual for them.
I believe that. I think wild birds molt different than domestic chickens. I think a lot of things we see in domestic chickens is unnatural when you think about it. I think gamefowl are the closest thing to the jungle fowl we have. So we're going to see traits that are more related to what we see in jungle fowl. But what we see in domestic chickens is, I would say, actually unnatural. It's man-made. But if those are wild birds, I don't think they would survive if you saw them actually dropping a lot of feathers. They would freeze at night, maybe even in Hawaii, I don't know. And they wouldn't be able to hide or evade predators or all that.
That'd be the biggest thing, being able to get in a high enough roost to get out of the reach of predators. With our chickens, you got to look at it. And we talk about this a lot, Kenny. Evolution.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
Look how long our chickens has been here. It's like all these dogs, okay, anymore. They cannot fight off worms. They cannot fight off any type of diseases because we give them shots and everything for it. So their bodies never get a chance to more or less think of it this way. What if somebody would just dropped on this planet, had been in a bubble all their life and just dropped off on this planet? What would happen to them in a month? They'd be dead.
Yeah.
Because their immune system wasn't tolerant to the germs and the diseases here. Same way with the chickens. We have kept food, water in front of them. So they don't see struggles in life. So they're like, well, why not just mow all my feathers off at once? It's not going to matter. I got food and water here. I don't have any predators. So why not? Year after year, it got worse.
Natural selection too. Now,
Yeah.
we didn't cull them when they lost all the feathers like nature would have. Now, the birds that are on the islands of Hawaii, I'm willing to bet, and I think some people believe it, that they were once gamefowl. And so natural selection would have killed off the ones that molted too early and weren't able to survive. Now you're seeing the ones that do selective pressures were held on to because of the way they molt, how gradual they do molt. Because they can survive and maybe evade predators to a point without their tail. Now, the tail does make a difference, but they can actually get away with it for a little while. But wing feathers and body feathers, no, I think they would suffer. So what you're seeing, the fact that they don't look like they're molting, but they are losing their tail feathers, you're seeing evidence of evolution right there.
I agree.
Yeah.
A strain's going to go where you let it go. If you don't invade and stick your foot in and say, oh, no, you're going to go this direction, they'll go their own direction. They'll go in the direction their environment points them in, pretty much.
That's why I always say breed and select like Mother Nature and like evolution does, or natural selection, because we're dictating what direction they go. And like Frank said, if we tolerate some things, then we're not really directing them like we should. We're not really perfecting them. We're just accepting them, or we're tolerating them. And so we have a lot of control in how they look, how they act, how they perform, all that. And if we don't practice that, then we're just tolerating whatever they give us, and that's not a good thing. So everything I do, how I select them, has a lot to do with, my first thought is, okay, what would Mother Nature do? What would evolution do? What would survive around here if I just let them go? And if I see any defects, they go automatically. But if I see other issues like a difference in conformation and type, improper carriage, poor feather, then to me that's a selection point, and I'll either keep it, exaggerate it, or cull it and get rid of it.
Barbara's asking, should I increase from 18% to a higher protein level when they're starting to molt?
I would.
Yep, most definitely. 18
Increase
to 20%.
Yep.
To 20.
At least.
Okay.
Yeah. And you want to make sure your methionine is up there too, because that methionine helps grow those feathers in as well. So methionine, 18 to 20%, and you'll be in good shape.
All right, Scott's saying, you're saying birds are completely done molting in 2 months?
That's what I select for. Mine are starting to molt right now. By the beginning of October or so, they should be done.
Yeah, mine's probably closer to 2.5, 3 months, somewhere in that area. Depending on when they start. Like I said, some of them I got in the shade. I've still got some right now. It's full feathers, not even dropped a feather yet, but they was under the shade.
Because when I see birds molting later, I also see a different constitution in that bird than I do the rest of the birds.
But with this case, though, if I'd put him out in the sun, if he'd had sun reaction, he would have been molting like the rest of them.
Could a longer molt just be a factor of its environment? I guess you've answered that.
It could be a number of things.
The environment dictates which genes are expressed or not. You know, we talk about it all the time, epigenetics. Histone modifications act like switches or knobs where they either turn on and off genes depending on their environment, and then DNA methylation where it works like knobs where it changes the intensity. So if I buy a bird from Frank and he says this is how they molt, and then I bring them over to mine, now the birds I got from him are probably going to molt like he said. But now I'm going to see a difference in the offspring. If Frank were to come here in 3 years, he'd see a totally different strain than what he has there. And molting would be part of that.
Right up the same alley here is a longer molt an environmental epigenetic factor that could take a few years to be a cullable trait.
Yes and no. Now, just because the environment epigenetics can do something doesn't mean it's going to. You've got the environment and you've got the genotype. That creates the phenotype. Will the environment change the genotype? Maybe. Sometimes it does, sometimes it don't. Sometimes it turns it on and off, sometimes it just changes the intensity. But whatever happens between those two is going to determine what the phenotype is. You just go with it. That's all you care about is what's showing up in the phenotype in the offspring. And then you either select for it or cull it, and that's going to determine the direction they go in. So whether the environment changes them or not, you have some control in the way you select them. And the molt can be a factor of that.
Okay, Frank, you're near me. So our birds molting now should be completely done by the end of October and still not be green.
Mine will be close. Sometimes they'll run up right last October, early November. They might have a few green feathers in them, but it's not like a lot. They may have some side sickles or something of that, maybe a tail feather or something, still got a little blood in it, but it's not like they've got them all over them. Especially like the ones I've got now that's been a little bit slower to molt. Now those will be probably up farther than that, but the ones that I've already got started molting then, they should be up around that time, close to it.
This is a good episode in that it teaches you something. Because I've been listening to it, and Frank and I, there's a lot we agree on, but there's some things we don't agree on. And I think most of the things we don't agree on is only because of our geographic area. He's going to experience different things than I'm going to experience. So when you listen to us, because of that, and because of epigenetics, sometimes not everything is written in stone. And I find that interesting. So for some of you that live in my kind of environment, you're going to probably follow what I do. For those who live in Frank's environment, you're probably going to follow what he does. But the principles of genetics, the principles of breeding, epigenetics, evolution, natural selection, all those, let me sum it up. Selective breeding and evolution. They work together, not against each other. And you have to determine what that means in your geographical area. And I think this is really cool that Frank's not living where I live, and I don't live where he lives, and you're going to get two different experiences. And then you have to determine which one works for you, but not discard the principles that we teach, because those stay constant. So I think this is a good lesson. I'm liking how this is coming out, this episode.
Yeah, because if nothing else, epigenetics tells you plainly environmental works towards your birds in different ways.
Yep.
That's a part of what changes them. Like Kenny said, he gets my birds, I get his birds. Within 10 years, they're not even going to look like each other's birds. We probably wouldn't even recognize them if we had to.
Yeah. So even though we agree on the principles, we're going to disagree about some of our experiences and what we've seen. That's a good thing. You're seeing two contrasting experiences, and you use them what you want. I just want you to concentrate on the principles too, because those are constant. Those stay the same. The process of breeding, the things you select for are the same. So the variables are going to be in what the environment does or doesn't do, and polygenics. When it's monogenic traits, when we're dealing with dominant recessive, those are constant. Those are true in, true out. I like this. This is cool. I hope people are learning from this.
We got one last one here from Christopher. Wouldn't mites be attracted to the blood in the feathers and raw open follicles?
Well, here's the thing. It doesn't matter if a bird is bathing itself, taking dust baths the way it's supposed to, and it's good and healthy. It's still going to resist those birds. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I've done this a lot of years, and I've had birds in together, a hen and a rooster, and I've had the rooster to have mites, and the hen would be clean. I mean, one be covered up completely and weight loss from it, and the other one unscathed, and they're roosting side by side. So that shows you right there that it's the individual that allows it and not just because he's a chicken.
Look at it this way. When we're talking about genetic resistance, lice and mites can go on that bird, and that bird will not be infested with lice and mites. But if his immunity were to drop and his resistance were to drop, there's something about that bird, whether it spews a smell or whatever it is, that attracts the lice and mites. So the idea is to select the ones that are resistant so that you don't even have to worry about the lice and mites because they're everywhere. If your birds are susceptible, they're going to get it one way or another. But if you're selecting away from lice and mites, you're breeding towards resistance, you're usually not going to have a problem with it. Whenever I see birds with lice and mites, I'm looking at a bird, there's a weakness. There's something wrong with that bird, if you ask me. I'm a firm believer of that.
I used to think that if they got parasites or worms, it's just because they was prevalent on your yard. Now I see it as Kenny does because of how I've studied it, researched it, and what I have gained in experience. And it's not just that. It's the bird allows itself to be there. Just like Kenny said, and I wrote an article today that I put on my profile. The people that's having to worm every 2 weeks, dust their birds every 2 weeks, there's an underlying problem. A healthy bird should not be like that all over your yard. If all your chickens is having this problem, then nutrition, the environment, caregiving, bad health, there's something very wrong with that yard if those birds is all having that problem alone. It shouldn't be that way. A good, healthy bird should be resistant to everything in his path to a degree. Not saying that he won't get them, but like Kenny said, he'll get them, but he will fight them off by taking dust baths, grooming himself like he's supposed to, and being healthy. He doesn't sip. Every animal that I have taken in the wild that had fleas, lice, or some kind of parasites has been emaciated and sick. I have never killed a healthy turkey, any type of birds or squirrels, anything, and field dressed them and seen any type of parasites other than the ones that was already sick to begin with.
I don't worm my birds, and I will not worm my birds. If my bird show that has worms, it's got to here. One of my mentors, his name was Doug, and he was really into genetics. He was really good. I don't know if he was good as Brian, but he covered a different side of it than Brian does. Brian's one of the best I've ever seen, Brian Reeder. But him and I got to talking, and I was like, we were talking about different resistance and genetics. And he goes, well, did you know that you can build a resistance to parasites? I go, what? He goes, yeah. He goes, start calling the ones that show that they are carrying parasites and watch your strain evolve. Because he's the one that told me that chances are if you go in there and you pick up a hen, she's sitting in a box and she's just filled with mites. But all the other birds are fine. There's a weakness there. So I just did what he said. I stopped worming my birds, and I stopped treating them and, dusting them and all that for lice and mites and dipping and all that stuff. And I just start culling. And to this day, I still look. I pick up a bird, I still look at them, and I still fill them. But I can't tell you the last time that I've treated them for lice, mites, or worms. It's been years.
I usually start at a certain point on my yard, and each day I'll get 4 or 5 birds out and just check them, check the flesh of them, see if they're too fat, see if they're too skinny, check them for mites, whatever it may be. But if you don't do that, that's the worst thing that you could actually do on your yard, because you take care of the problem before it becomes a problem. Check your birds constantly, at least every 2 weeks, and you'll keep a good nick on things. But let it go, it can turn into much more than that.
I will not baby birds. If they can't survive here, then they don't belong here. So if I see a sick bird, which I don't usually, but if I do, if I see a problem, I just get rid of it. And to me, that strengthens my farm. My farm looks different because I got rid of that one bird. If you think about it, very seldom are you getting rid of a lot of birds. You're just getting rid of a bird here and there. Get rid of the weak links and quit babying them. Quit over taking care of them. Don't change the litter all the time. I keep a deep litter. The only reason I take the litter out is because it got too high. And then I take some of it out, turn it over, and go on. I just throw in the grass and the bushes. I had neighbors with horses, and I would throw the horse manure in there, and then it'd get so high. And then I would just clean out half of it, turn over what was there, and go on. I still do that.
And it doesn't have to be surgical, guys. It doesn't have to be spick and span with Mr. Clean taken to it and everything sanitized. They need those microorganisms to actually, help strengthen their immune system in their environment. So they need that. If you're keeping the pen super clean, when they do come in contact with these organisms, you got problems. You got sick birds then.
The ones I see that have the most issues with health are the ones that are over cleaning, over medicating, over worming, and using supplements. Those are the ones I see having the biggest problems with the birds. If you only realize how little you actually have to do. These birds do pretty well on their own if you just let them. They can survive a lot.
It doesn't have to be tap water. It can be well water or whatever, just as long as it's fresh water. But good quality feed, clean water, good caretaking, and a good environment with pens where they live can take a rooster and a hen a long ways. They can overcome a lot of obstacles. Just let them be themselves. Let them use what you give them, the genetic makeup allow them to put it to use, and they'll do it every time. But if you've got a sick chicken on your yard, it's just like having a steel chain with a plastic link in it. Get rid of that sucker. If it wants to die, let it die. It's weak. That's a genetic weakness right there. Get rid of it.
Yeah, let the body do what it does. Let the genetics prove the bird and select accordingly. Nancy, you want to wrap it up because you're going to kill me.
Okay, that's a wrap. I need that little thing you've got in your room, this smack thing. That's a wrap.
All right, take one.
No, take one.
Kenny's got one of
Hey,
those.
we're done.
Yeah, she wants it, sounds like.
Yeah, he's got one.
Yep, she can have it.
He does. Yeah, I need to
It's a
get
lot.
it. So, guys, we really appreciate you being here tonight. Make sure if you love what you're seeing that you like, subscribe, and share often, and hit that notification bell so that you never, ever miss a show. We appreciate you helping us to make our way to the top, reach more people.
All right. Thanks for joining us. Thanks, Frank. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
And Kenny, you are dead meat when we
You cannot yell at me. No, you cannot yell at me after this.
you are dead meat when we get off of this show for ratting me out. You know, I got crap in the chat room for this.
I wasn't going to say anything, Nancy, because I know everybody else was going to get you, so I didn't say anything.
I'm just joking.
You guys feel sorry for me?
No,
No.
Maybe I'll see you next week.
it might just be the Nancy and Frank show.
If I make it to the next week, I'll see you then. I don't know. Maybe. Oh well. Shit.
Bye.
Okay. Thanks for listening.
Yes, thank you again for joining us on the Bred to Perfection podcast show. This show was brought to you by the Breeders Academy, where by becoming a member, you can increase your knowledge of breeding, advance your skills as a breeder, and take you and your fowl to the next level.
We can also show you how to create a strain from hybrid crosses or mongrel flocks, and help you to create, maintain, and improve your present strains. We urge you to check it out. You have nothing to lose, and you can cancel anytime.
To join us at the Breeders Academy membership website, go to www.breedersacademy.com.
Best of all, I'll be there to help you every step of the way.
While you're checking out the Breeders Academy, make sure to sign up for our newsletter, The Breeders Bulletin. We provide a lot of free bonus materials and some great information that will take you and your fowl to the next level. Well, that's it for now.
We hope you join us next time for another episode of Bred to Perfection. We'll see you later.
Bye. Welcome to the after show. This is the part of the show that doesn't exist. What happens in the after show stays in the after show. If you've mentioned to your friends about the after show, which happens from time to time, no worries. Just tell them not to let out our little secret area of the show. Enjoy!
When you breed those birds, you hardly ever get anything worth culling. I mean, it's possible you will get it, but if you do your job right and you get them, you cull all the defective stuff, you get that bird cleaned up, that family cleaned up, you get nothing but nice birds out of them. And they reproduce themselves. That's the goal of it. Yes, hybrids can be bigger, faster, better, just all the way around better type chickens, okay? More vigorous, the whole 9 yards. But you can't keep making those birds, even those hybrids, if you're not maintaining the family itself, those two families that you're putting together. And that's what they don't understand. They breed them, they get good birds out of them, and then 4 or 5 years, one gets, one gets killed. One dies of something, a disease or something, they're gone. They're gone forever.
I look at that game as a patience game, in that they get great results quickly, but then it fizzles out into nothing. Mm-hmm. Or if you're creating a strain, it's a slow but steady progress to something higher and better. Okay. And then once you get to a certain level, it's just a matter of maintaining them, which becomes actually pretty easy. It's like my Maximus line out there. I don't have to do a whole lot to maintain them. I just got to make sure I'm not breeding something that happened to be expressed that could actually ruin them, like a defect. But for the most part, I've got the type and conformation pretty well locked in. Same thing with my black pearls. I was looking at my black pearls today, just taking some time, really walking around, studying them, looking at them, because I'm kind of cleaning up the pens as well. And I'm just so grateful and pleased how well they're turning out. They got really good conformation of body. The color is just regal, and I'm not seeing any variations whatsoever in them. Wait till you see them, Frank, when you come here.
While I was there.
Well,
you can see the potential.
Yeah. All the young ones are all big now, and they look wonderful. Okay. But that took time. That didn't happen overnight. It took me a little while to get them there. And there was times when I felt like I was falling backwards a little bit, but I knew what to do to get them back. Okay. So now that I got them at this stage, it's just a matter of maintaining them, following the program, making sure I maintain the genetic diversity that I need without bringing outside blood in. Okay. Then I can maintain them for forever. And now the improvements that I'm going to be making are very subtle. That's why pictures are good. That's why videos are good. Keeping an eye on their progress over time. And I'm getting to the point, especially with black pearls, I don't know how much more I'm going to be able to improve them. I like them the way they are right now, which is awesome, But that didn't happen by adding new blood in every month, every year or every season. If I was doing that, I would have never got them to where they're at right now. Never.
Nancy?
You want to say
You
something?
wanted to say something.
No, you guys are right on track with what's going on in the chat room.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, because I even brought this up. Christopher is saying the hybrid made of hybrids is nothing compared to a hybrid made from pure birds, meaning like you have you guys can explain this one.
Well, I'll say it right here is
he's so right.
A hybrid's bred to a hybrid is a mongrel. Okay. A pure bred to a pure produces the hybrids, which is hybridization. Once you start adding more bloodlines in there, you don't have this idea of a 3-way, 4-way cross is nonsense. All you did was just add multiple families into one, which is a mongrel. It means multiple families into one.
I think what Christopher, I could be wrong, but I think what Christopher's getting at is that the hybrids from 2 pure families is much better.
Oh no, I get that.
From two hybrids.
No, I get that fully. I get that fully.
Yeah.
I'm just explaining why
and he's right on.
Hybrids is not a good idea.
Yeah, 2 hybrids, every time you breed them, the hybrids, and they're not a pure trait family, you go downhill. Pure family, you go to the max that you can actually get. So, big difference. Totally opposite breeding methods there. But a lot of people does it.
Yeah. There's so many practices I see out there that are just ruining the strains. And I get it. Establishing a strain is complicated. It's not an easy thing. It takes a long time. But our goal as a breeder is to create strains that last a long time, that last generation after generation.
If you are enjoying the show and would like to learn more, I encourage you to join me at the Breeders Academy. By becoming a member, I can help you to achieve the competitive advantage.